Hello world, welcome back to Daily News Africa, where we bring you stories to inform, entertain, and inspire you. My name is Belinda.
And filling in for Mary, my name is Walter.
Now, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, it has been observed that cycling as a trend has increased in the city of Nairobi, right across the border in Kenya. Take a look.
Trend in Nairobi, Kenya, sees more people cycling since the onset of the COVID-19, a promising sign in the city of rising air pollution, and estimates of $1 billion traffic jam sourced losses in animal productivity.
In 2020, the sales were high compared to 2019 in terms of sales, because you find that people wanted to cycle more just to keep fit, to commute from work from point A to point B.
Without the protection of bike paths, cyclists must navigate between antiquated trucks, speeding SUVs, and motorcycles crisscrossing the lanes on busy highways during rush hour. Nevertheless, many still see several benefits to this mode of transportation.
The drivers are usually careless. They can push you off the road. They don't care about you. But I just look at the pros and cons. I'm much safer on a bicycle. I'm social distancing. I take less time.
Weirdly, cycling, the COVID has been good for cycling. It has shown policymakers that people want to walk, people want to cycle. And they have to, whether they like it or not, they have to find a way of ensuring people can get to their destinations safe and sound.
In 2020, 69 cyclists died in Nairobi, and Odada believes Kenya still has a long way to go to show that cyclist lives matter.
Cycling. Who knew that in 2020, that would be something a country, a whole, economies are now
Pushing.
Yes, for people to get into. I think it's definitely got its good sides and its bad sides.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I know for cycling, first of all, it reduces your carbon footprint for the nationals out there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you cycle, but the interesting thing is if you're trying to get your body working, it works on your calf muscles. So you get some calves. When they see you somewhere and then they say, oh my, you get some calves. Like, it could be cycling.
No, but I mean, great. That's a really great thing. People are getting in more exercise. But, just listening to that story, it made me wonder, and even just to bring it back to a Ugandan context, 69 cyclists in Kenya died last year from
Cycling.
accidents. And it really took me back to the infrastructural problem we have as a continent, may I say. The fact that there were no cycling paths worked into plans for the cities, and now we have a problem like this, and cycling is increasing, but then the infrastructure cannot evolve or increase at the same rate.
At the same rate, yeah. I know that, but I believe that Uganda, for example, is working on a policy that will basically come up with lanes and roads which are non-motorized, so that people can actually use this when they're cycling.
Yes.
Because when you look at the traffic jams, I think we really need bikes, because you just get from point A to point B, even though you may get there when you're a little bit steamy, you still get there. And then, but I'm glad that governments are really taking a position and trying to push this forward, because it's what I think our country needs, and the continent needs, because pollution is on the rise, engines are running, we need to just take it back.
Yes, Destination Carbon Zero. It's a real campaign in the environmental world. So kudos, Uganda. Job well done.
Yep. And going all the way to Angola, the country is pushing for 60% electricity coverage by 2025.
Angola is seeking to increase the share of its population with access to electricity. France and the World Bank have underwritten €344 million to connect the provinces of Benguela, Huambo, Huila and Luanda to the national grid. The Southern African country is looking to create a 60% electricity access rate by 2025. Currently in Angola, only 1/3 of the population has access to electricity under good conditions. The objective is, firstly, the modernization and extension of the electricity network in the 4 biggest provinces of Angola, but also to work on improving the performance of the public companies in the sector, the 3 public enterprises in the production, transport and distribution sector. We're going to create a project management unit under the Ministry of Water and Energy that will supervise the technical issues in the 3 public companies in the sector to ensure that the project progresses under good conditions and that the financial means are well used. Paris is also supporting Luanda to transform its rural areas by funding projects delivering piped water to small towns. Angola is urbanizing fast, but its towns are not properly planned and lack social amenities.
The amazing thing about this, with the increased coverage in electricity, more opportunities are going to be created. Personally, I think that people like in the rural areas are going to get opportunities they've always wanted. Like if a guy had a dream of creating a video library,
Right.
they'll get it. A discotheque, they'll get it. And then other amazing thing is industrialization.
Right.
What are your thoughts, though?
I mean, this is obviously a very big deal. When you think about the statistics, at least from as far back as 2018, which are the most recent ones available, Angola and Uganda are not so far in terms of their electrification percentage rate at this point. So my concern is that somebody sitting somewhere else in another location might not have the context of what 40% electrification looks like.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thinking, I hope nobody thinks that when you arrive at a Ugandan or the airport in Angola, that you're being checked in with a candle. That is not the case. I mean, is it evenly distributed? Probably not. The challenge in this part of the world is that usually the concentration is in the urban community, and so that it would be nice to see that with the support of the World, the Global Fund, and the France, that Angola gets electricity to more rural areas. That would be an interesting thing to see.
That, I think about it, with this increase, then people are going to get light jokes.
Right.
Literally, for example, people will say things like, "Oh man, do you know what a bulb told the switch?"
No.
You turn me on. Yeah, things like that. Jokes will come around because
electricity is here.
So
Awesome.
we can't fight that.
Great. Now, to delve deeper into one of the stories happening here that DNA is bringing you today, we have our segment, Tell It with Hannington.
Hello there, this is Tell It and I'm your host Hannington. This week, after pressure from the World Health Organization, the Tanzanian president admitted that the country could have a problem of COVID-19. Here's the story.
It took President John Magufuli a surge in COVID infections, a high-profile death, and persuasion from the World Health Organization to acknowledge the existence of the virus in Tanzania. Speaking during a Sunday church service, he urged people to take precautions. Never did I say that you should not wear a mask. Do not quote me as saying that. Let me just say that there are some good masks and some are not good. I want to tell you that it's the truth. Some of the imported masks are a health problem. I am your leader. I am privy to a lot of information and I must tell you the truth. If you must wear a mask, use those made by your own country, by our Ministry of Health. If you can't afford them, make your own mask. I am telling you this because I am one of you. I know. This is war. Last Friday, Magufuli called on believers to pray for the country to be spared from what he called a serious respiratory disease. Tanzania has not enforced any curbs on movement or gatherings.
So that was the president of Tanzania after the pressure from the World Health Organization admitting to the fact that there could be a problem in his country. And of course, this is not the first instance, or this is not the first, pronouncement the president has made.
Right.
There has been one where he rallied the country to join into prayer that the prayer will help the country. And I'm not speaking against any religion or anything, but we need to be real to the problems that we are facing. And then also, that's also on top of the fact that the country accepted aid from the European Union, 27 million euros of taxpayers' money in COVID relief to Tanzania. So the president insists that up until this week, the president was insisting that there is no problem in his country, and he accepted the aid, and he turned down the advice to put the country on lockdown. So I think the problem is quite bigger than we are looking at, or I think it's high time we sort of have a discussion, because we're having Tanzanians coming into our country, doing trade, and then, the truck drivers and all that. What do you think? I think I'll start with you, Belinda. What do you think is the president's motive? Where do you think he's coming from? Refusing the virus and saying he's not trusting it, and what do you think is his motive?
I think I have nothing against His Excellency Magufuli. Nothing against him at all. I think his intentions were good. I think he was coming from a good place. It's unfortunate he didn't have the financial muscle, the political muscle to I guess advance what his point of thinking was. I think there was something there, and I still believe that there's information that the wananchi, the layman does not have access to.
Yeah.
I think he's protecting his people from something that we can't see.
But you see, to my understanding, and this is my issue,
right,
I feel like the president is the sole communicator. It's what he does is what goes.
Right.
Recently, you saw that clip about the minister, how they were saying he's not sick, and then he's like, he can even give an address. He came to give an address. It was really terrible. Right. So maybe, Walter, what do you think about the president and his motive? What do you think his motive could be?
I can't really point my finger on what his motive could be, but I believe the president is set in his own way, because when you listen to some of his arguments, they're a little bit different. He once said that all these countries which had locked down finally opened up, and their numbers are still ballooning. For him who didn't lock up, but his numbers were still up there. He never acknowledged the numbers.
That is the issue. Acknowledging the numbers is one thing. He was not updating the statuses. Remember,
he wasn't.
April of 2020.
But let me put it this way. You said you're controlling this guy, and then your numbers are skyrocketing, and then you open up everything. So what are you really doing? I think the only thing that he hasn't come out to say is like, let's really do all the precautions, let's say. But in the segment, he even talked about buying masks. And for me, what I found interesting is like he was shunning the masks from being imported, but buying masks from, homemade masks. So he's not really saying, don't wear masks. He's saying, you can wear your masks. He's not telling people, do not social distance. Like, he's basically not telling them, but he wants them to have that own knowledge of like protect yourself.
So Walter, that reminds me of really the Pan-Africanists challenge. And to piggyback off of what Hannington said earlier, I think it's just a case of that, like I said before, the intentions are good, but it could be that thing of you just don't trust, because the colonization, that struggle is still very real for someone of that stature. That's what I hear when he speaks. That's why he's insisting on the masks being made locally. And he didn't say do not wear the masks. He's just saying wear, because God knows what he knows about the imported masks. We do not have the privilege of that information. But there's a real, it's still to be seen what he's really giving us from.
Before I get on to the next question, I think even African leaders, they need to take a stand. They need to, move, not stop playing on the fence. Right. 1 minute you're accepting aid, and the other minute you're talking about, what it is that you should accept in terms of products, or what you should reject and things like that. Yeah, so, and then also that takes us back, as the president, I think he needs to put the people's interest at the forefront of this whole fight. We are being honest with each other, and we are being truthful. This is a problem that the world is facing. The earlier the countries, most of their leaders, agree and, come to the realization that they need to combat this problem, the better their citizens will be off at a time when maybe this whole pandemic is behind us and we are moving forward. So do you think he is neglecting the interests of the people? Besides telling them to simply buy masks locally or anything, do you think he's neglecting the people?
To a certain degree, yes. I personally had, I know of people there very close to me who couldn't get a COVID test because, the fact that, it was declared that the test can only be done in one place at this point, or you can only get your results after 48 hours. It was a very slow process, which really, for me, points to the fact that perhaps it wasn't given the attention it deserved to be given, because if someone who has their resources is willing to get the test done, but the country has not put, things in place for them to be able to access the service, I think in a way you've let your ego get in the way, or whatever it is that's guiding you. That's what I think.
Do you think the president is failing his people?
I would like to a little bit disagree, because when you look at the impact of COVID, many people lost their jobs.
Yeah.
But when you look at let's say look at Tanzania, how many people are saying they lost their jobs? They still had their jobs because they never shut down. They kept going to work, so they still had their livelihood and keep. Maybe they lost on the tourism side, but in terms of other things, I think he was trying to protect the economic needs for the people instead of just shutting completely down, and like when he shut down and doesn't know.
Yes,
yeah,
at what cost?
No, but I think in his head he has a plan. I think as a leader he has a plan. I feel like he has a plan, but who knows? The future will tell, because.
No, but you see, just as we wind up, it's very important. Like I said before, we last saw statistics from Tanzania in 2020.
Maybe it doesn't scare the people.
No, they should be scared. They should take precautions,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
they should, reduce on the spread of the disease.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you very
and
much,
that's it for
Linda.
telling
Thank you,
this
Walter,
week.
and that's it for this
From
week.
the entire
Thank you very
cast
much.
and production
We'll catch you
crew
again
at
next
DNA.
week.
We'll have to say thank you and join us again next week. Remember to follow the SOPs, wear a mask, sanitize, wash your hands, and keep a reasonable social distance. Thank you.
Okay.